Sarah wanted everything perfect for our annual Christmas dinner party. She always did. 20 guests, catered food from that Italian place downtown. White lights wrapped around every surface in our Scottsdale home. I watched her fuss over the placement of wine glasses on our dining table, adjusting each one a quarter inch to the left or right, and wondered how long she'd been sleeping with Derek. 6 months. That's how long I'd known. I discovered it the way most men do. Accidentally, stupidly, in a moment that replays in your mind until you think you'll go insane. June 15th, 10:47 p.m. I came home early from a conference in Phoenix, parking in the driveway instead of the garage because I was tired and my briefcase was heavy. Derek's BMW sat at the curb. Strange, but not impossible. He was my best friend since college, practically family. Maybe he and Lisa were visiting Sarah while I was gone. Except Lisa's car wasn't there. I stood at my own front door with my key in my hand, and something told me not to go in. Not yet. I walked around to the side yard instead, where our bedroom window faces the desert landscape. The curtains weren't fully closed. Through the gap, I saw my wife of 12 years in our bed with the man who'd been best man at our wedding. I didn't go inside. I got back in my rental car and drove to a hotel near the airport. Spent the night staring at the ceiling, feeling my entire reality crack and reshape itself into something unrecognizable. By morning, I'd made a decision. No confrontation, no dramatic scene. I'd document everything, protect myself legally and financially, and wait for exactly the right moment. The next 6 months were the longest performance of my life. I came home, kissed Sarah on the cheek, asked about her day. I played golf with Derek every other Saturday, listened to him talk about his marriage problems with Lisa, nodded sympathetically. Meanwhile, I hired a private investigator, opened a separate bank account, met with 3 different divorce attorneys, moved money systematically, legally, into protected assets, downloaded banking records, investment statements, copies of everything we owned. The investigators' reports arrived weekly. Hotels in Phoenix, lunch meetings in Tempe that lasted 3 hours, text messages recovered from phone records. They were careful, but not careful enough. They met Tuesdays and Thursdays, when I supposedly worked late at the firm. Sometimes Derek told Lisa he had client dinners. Sometimes Sarah told me she had book club. There was no book club. I'd verified that in week 2. I documented 43 separate encounters between June and December. Photographs, timestamps, hotel receipts charged to Derek's corporate card. Enough evidence to bury them both in any courtroom in Arizona. But I wanted something more than a legal victory. I wanted them to feel what I felt. That moment of complete disorientation when your world stops making sense. And I wanted witnesses. So when Sarah suggested our annual Christmas party, I encouraged it. Helped her plan it, even. Made sure Derek and Lisa were at the top of the guest list. Invited my brother Tom, who knew everything. Invited Sarah's parents, who thought I walked on water. Invited our neighbors, our friends, Derek's business partners, everyone who mattered in our carefully constructed suburban life. "Michael, can you check the temperature on the wine?" Sarah called from the kitchen. She wore a red dress I'd bought her for her birthday. It looked good on her. Everything about her looked good, which made the betrayal somehow worse. "Sure, honey," I said, and the word felt like broken glass in my mouth. Derek arrived at 6:30 p.m. with Lisa, carrying an expensive bottle of scotch. "Merry Christmas, brother," he said, pulling me into a hug. Over his shoulder, I caught Sarah's eye. Something flickered there. Guilt, maybe, or just annoyance that he'd arrived before she'd finished setting up. "Merry Christmas," I said, and clapped him on the back like I'd done 1,000 times before. The house filled quickly. Tom arrived with his wife Jennifer, gave me a subtle nod that meant everything was ready. Sarah's parents came loaded with gifts. The Hendersons from next door, the Chens from across the street, my colleague Marcus and his boyfriend, Sarah's sister Beth with her husband. All of them laughing, drinking, completely unaware that they were about to witness something none of them would ever forget. At 8:15 p.m. I stood in our living room surrounded by 20 people who trusted me, who thought they knew me, and cleared my throat. "Can I get everyone's attention for a minute?" Sarah looked over from where she was refilling someone's wine glass. "Michael, what?" "I just want to make a toast," I said, keeping my voice steady. "It's been quite a year." I could see Tom's jaw set from across the room. Derek raised his scotch glass, oblivious. Lisa smiled at me, sweet and trusting. And Sarah. Sarah looked at me with something between confusion and the first cold edge of fear. "This is going to be a Christmas none of us forget," I said. The room settled into that expectant silence people get before toasts. I held my wine glass, feeling its weight, measuring this moment I'd planned for months. Sarah had moved closer, standing next to Derek now without seeming to realize it, an unconscious magnetism I'd watched develop over half a year. 12 years ago, I married the woman I thought would be my partner for life, I began. Sarah smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She knew something was wrong. And 15 years ago, I met the man I thought would be my best friend forever. Derek grinned, raised his glass higher. "To friendship, brother." "I believed in loyalty," I continued. "I believed that the people you love, the people you trust with everything you have, would honor that trust. I built my entire life on that belief. Michael." Sarah's voice was thin now, worried. I pulled out my phone, connected it to our TV, something I'd tested that morning while Sarah was at the salon. The screen lit up with a spreadsheet. "This is a timeline," I said conversationally, as if discussing stock portfolios at the office. June 15th through December 18th. 43 separate encounters between my wife and my best friend. The room went silent in a way I'd never heard before. It was like all the air had been sucked out. I clicked to the next slide. A hotel receipt from the Phoenician, charged to Derek's company card. Then another from the Biltmore. Then a photograph, grainy but unmistakable, of Sarah and Derek entering a Tempe hotel at 2:30 on a Tuesday afternoon. "What the hell is this?" Derek's voice cracked on the last word. "This is 6 months of documentation," I said. 6 months of Tuesdays and Thursdays. 6 months of working late, and book club, and client dinners. 6 months of me knowing exactly what you were doing while continuing to smile and pretend everything was fine. Sarah's wine glass hit the floor. Red wine spread across our white carpet like blood. "You knew?" Her face had gone sheet white. "You knew this whole time?" "Every single day," I said. Lisa made a sound like she'd been punched. She turned to Derek, and I saw the exact moment her world shattered. The same moment mine had 6 months ago in that hotel parking lot. "Tell me this isn't real," she whispered. "Derek, tell me." "I can explain," Derek started. "With what?" I interrupted. "There are text messages, Derek. The investigator recovered them from your phone records. Do you want me to read those out loud too? Or should we skip to the part where you told her you loved her more than you'd ever loved Lisa? That was August 4th, by the way, the day after your 15th wedding anniversary." Sarah was shaking now, her arms wrapped around herself. "You had no right. I had every right." The anger came through for the first time, controlled but sharp. I had every right to protect myself from two people who looked me in the eye every single day and lied. "Son," Sarah's father said, his voice rough. "Is this true?" Sarah's mother stood frozen, her hand over her mouth. Around the room, faces showed variations of shock, horror, disgust. Beth had tears running down her face. Marcus looked like he wanted to leave but couldn't move. The Hendersons stood together, his arm around her shoulders, united against this glimpse of marriage falling apart. "We should go," someone said. I think it was Mr. Chen. People started moving toward the door in a confused mass, like animals fleeing a fire. "No," I said. "Stay. Have dinner. Enjoy the party. I'm leaving." "You're leaving?" Sarah found her voice again, shrill now. "You're the one who just humiliated us in front of everyone we know." "I'm the one who got humiliated 6 months ago," I corrected. "Tonight is just making it public." Tom appeared at my elbow with my coat and car keys. We'd planned this part too. "My place is ready whenever you need it," he said quietly. Derek lunged forward, his face red. You sanctimonious son of a… My brother stepped between us. Tom, 6'2", and built like he still plays college football. Derek stopped. You want to take a swing at him? Tom asked conversationally. In front of 20 witnesses? Give his lawyer even more ammunition in the divorce? Divorce? Sarah's voice broke on the word. I looked at her. Really looked at her for the first time in months without the fog of betrayal clouding everything. The papers will be served Monday morning, I said. My attorney has copies of everything. Hotel receipts, phone records, photographs, bank statements showing I've already protected our assets legally. Arizona is a no-fault state, but judges still care about infidelity when it comes to asset division. You'll get exactly what the law requires and not a penny more. I love you, she said suddenly. Michael, I love you. This was a mistake, I can explain. No, I said simply. You loved the idea of me. The stable husband, the good income, the nice house in Scottsdale. But you wanted whatever Derek gave you more. And that's fine. You can have him. Lisa had collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Derek stood there looking like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Sarah's parents wouldn't meet her eyes. Around us, the remnants of our party stood like witnesses to a car crash, unable to look away. The house is yours until the divorce is final, I told Sarah. I've moved everything I need. My attorney will be in touch about the rest. I walked to the door. Behind me, I heard Sarah start to cry, huge, gasping sobs that might have moved me 6 months ago. Now they just sounded like noise. Tom followed me out to where his truck was parked. You okay? He asked. Not even close, I said. But I will be. Tom's spare room became my base for 3 months. Bare walls, a bed, a desk. I'd get up at 5 a.m. for the gym, work till 7, come back, eat whatever Jennifer cooked, and go to sleep. Rinse and repeat. The routine was the only thing keeping me from thinking too much about the wreckage of my marriage. The divorce moved faster than I expected. Sarah hired an aggressive attorney who tried every tactic, claiming I'd abandoned her, arguing I'd hidden assets, even suggesting I'd been abusive. But I had documentation for everything. Every dollar accounted for, every action legal, every move I'd made since June 15th, designed to protect myself from exactly these accusations. Derek's marriage imploded within 3 weeks. Lisa filed first, and her attorney was apparently even more ruthless than Sarah's. Word through mutual friends was that Derek had lost his company car, his partnership stake was under review, and Lisa had gotten the house in Paradise Valley plus half his 401k. Sarah called 47 times in January alone. I never answered. My attorney handled everything. By February, she'd moved in with Derek, into his cramped apartment in Tempe, since Lisa had the house. I wondered if they found it romantic, this forced closeness, or if reality was setting in that affairs look a lot different in daylight. You need to get back out there, Jennifer told me one Friday night in March. We were sitting on Tom's back patio, watching the desert sunset. Not dating necessarily, just living. I am living. You're surviving, she corrected. There's a difference. She was right. I'd been so focused on the legal battle, on protecting myself and winning the divorce, that I'd forgotten there was supposed to be something after. A life I actually wanted, not just an absence of pain. I started with small things. Joined a different gym, one where I wouldn't run into Derek. Started playing basketball at the outdoor courts near Scottsdale Stadium on weekends. Accepted Marcus's invitation to a poker night with guys from the office. Went to Tom and Jennifer's for Sunday dinners instead of hiding in my room. The divorce finalized in April. I got the investment accounts, my retirement, and a fair split of the house equity once it sold. Sarah got the house until it closed, her car, and half of our savings. No alimony. We'd both worked, and Arizona law was clear. My attorney called it a clean break. I didn't feel clean. I felt scraped raw. But I also felt something else. Free, maybe. Or just lighter. Like I'd been carrying weight I hadn't realized was there until it was gone. In May, Marcus convinced me to interview for a position at his firm. A step up from where I'd been. More money, better title. "You've been at the same place for 8 years," he said. "Time for a change." I got the offer in June, exactly 1 year after finding out about the affair. The symmetry felt significant somehow. New job, new apartment, a place in Old Town Scottsdale, modern and mine. Nothing in it that reminded me of Sarah. I bought new furniture, hung art I actually liked, set up a home office with a view of Camelback Mountain. Work became something I enjoyed again, instead of a place to hide. The new firm valued my analysis, gave me projects with real weight. I started mentoring a junior analyst named Kevin, a kid fresh out of Arizona State who reminded me of myself 15 years ago. Smart, eager, and a little too trusting. "What's your secret?" he asked me one afternoon in August. We were reviewing a client portfolio in my office. "You're 40, you're killing it here. You seem like you've got it all figured out." I almost laughed. "I got divorced this year," I told him. "My wife had an affair with my best friend. I exposed them both at a Christmas party in front of everyone we knew. I spent 6 months documenting everything like a paranoid detective." Does that sound like having it figured out? Kevin's eyes went wide. "Seriously?" "Seriously." "But you're—" He gestured vaguely at my office, my suit, the framed client appreciation awards on the wall. "You're doing great." "Now," I said. "Now I'm doing great. 6 months ago I was sleeping on my brother's couch and wondering if I'd ever feel normal again." He sat back, processing. "What changed?" "I stopped waiting to feel better and started building something better," I said. "Different thing." That conversation stuck with me. I realized I'd been measuring my recovery by the absence of pain. Fewer nights lying awake, fewer moments of sudden rage, fewer times I thought about Sarah and Derek. But that was just healing. It wasn't growing. I started saying yes to things I'd avoided during my marriage. Took a photography class because I'd always been interested, but Sarah had called it a waste of time. Joined a hiking group that did sunrise treks up Camelback and Pistewa Peak. Started volunteering with a financial literacy nonprofit that helped veterans transition to civilian careers. That last one changed everything. I met Jack Reeves in September, a former Marine staff sergeant who'd come back from Iraq and struggled to find work. He had skills, leadership, logistics, crisis management, but no idea how to translate them to corporate speak. We spent 3 months working together. I helped him rebuild his resume, practice interviews, understand how to sell his military experience to civilian employers. He got hired in November at a logistics company in Phoenix, $60,000 starting salary. Called me the day he got the offer. "I can't thank you enough, man. You gave me my life back." "You did the work," I said. But driving home that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Not the hollow satisfaction of winning the divorce or the grim determination to survive. Actual purpose. The nonprofit asked me to run a workshop series. 15 veterans, 6 weeks, covering everything from resume building to financial planning to interview skills. I said yes, without hesitating. The workshop met Tuesday nights at a VFW hall in Phoenix. 15 veterans, ranging from kids in their early 20s fresh from Afghanistan to a guy named William who'd served in Desert Storm. Different backgrounds, different struggles, but all of them trying to figure out how to translate military service into civilian success. I'd expected to teach them. Instead, they taught me what resilience actually looked like. Jessica, a former Army medic, had been unemployed for 8 months and was living in her car. Marcus, different Marcus, not my colleague, had lost his leg in Kandahar and was fighting the VA for disability benefits while working part-time at Home Depot. They showed up every Tuesday, did the work, refused to quit. By December, 12 of the 15 had job offers. Jessica got hired at Banner Health. Marcus landed a position at a defense contractor in Chandler. William started his own security consulting business. The other 3 were in final interviews with companies I'd connected them with. The nonprofit director, a woman named Patricia who'd spent 20 years in social work, pulled me aside after our last session. "We want to expand this," she said. "Make it a permanent program. Would you consider coming on as a consultant? We can pay you." "I don't need the money," I said. "But I'll do it for free if you can scale it statewide." She smiled. "Deal." Work at the firm had accelerated too. The promotion to senior analyst came in January with a $40,000 raise and my own team. I brought Kevin on as my associate, hired 2 more analysts, built a division focused on sustainable investment portfolios, something I'd pitched for years at my old firm and been ignored. Within 6 months, we'd brought in $20 million in new assets under management. My boss, a straight-talking woman named Catherine who'd built the firm from scratch, called me into her office in March. "You're making partner," she said without preamble. "We're announcing it next quarter. Congratulations." I thought about Sarah, who'd always said I wasn't ambitious enough, that I was content being mediocre. Thought about Derek, who'd made partner at his firm by schmoozing clients and taking credit for other people's work. I'd done it by actually being good at my job. "Thank you," I said. "I won't let you down." "You haven't yet," Catherine said. "That's why you're here." The partnership came with equity and a seat at the decision table. I pushed for more veteran hiring initiatives, mentorship programs, community investment. The other partners pushed back at first, worried about costs, about risks, about change. But the numbers supported me. Veterans showed lower turnover, higher dedication, better team performance. Within a year, we had a reputation as the most veteran-friendly financial firm in Arizona. I ran into Lisa Martinez in May at a coffee shop in Old Town. I almost didn't recognize her. She'd cut her hair short, lost weight, looked vibrant in a way I didn't remember from before. She saw me, hesitated, then walked over. "Michael," she said. "How are you?" "Good," I said honestly. "Really good." "You?" "Same." She sat down at my table without asking, which somehow felt right. "I heard you made partner. Congratulations." "Thank you. I heard you got the house." She smiled, but it was sad around the edges. "Yeah. Funny how you can win something and still feel like you lost." We sat in silence for a moment. Then she said, "I'm sorry. For not seeing it sooner. For not telling you when I should have." "You didn't know," I said. "I suspected." She looked at her coffee cup. There were signs. Late nights, distance, that look people get when they're lying to themselves about what they're doing. I just didn't want to believe it. "None of us want to believe it," I said. "Derek's struggling," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Lost his partnership. Can't afford the apartment in Tempe anymore. I heard through a friend that he and Sarah are fighting constantly." I waited for the satisfaction, the vindication. It didn't come. Just a distant sort of sadness for time wasted. "What about you?" I asked. "What are you doing now?" "Went back to school," she said. "Getting my master's in education. I start teaching in the fall." Her whole face changed when she said it, lit up in a way I'd never seen. "Turns out I spent 15 years being Derek's wife when I should have been becoming myself." "That's great, Lisa. Really." We talked for another 20 minutes about safe things. Her classes, my work, the weather, places we'd been. When she left, she hugged me. "I'm glad you're okay," she said. "You deserve better than what we all put you through." "We all deserve better," I said, and I meant it. Summer came. I bought a Jeep and started taking weekend trips into the desert, photographing landscapes and wildlife. Posted them on Instagram, not for likes, but just because I wanted to document where I'd been. My account grew slowly, 200 followers, then 500, then 1,000. Nothing viral, just steady growth from people who liked the images. Jennifer showed me a Facebook post in August. Sarah had written something long about second chances and learning from mistakes and how love conquers all. The comments were mostly supportive from people who didn't know the full story. "Does that bother you?" Jennifer asked. "No," I said, and realized it was true. She gets to tell whatever story helps her sleep at night. I know what happened. The call came from Tom in October, 2 years and 4 months after that Christmas party. I was in my office reviewing quarterly projections when my phone buzzed. "You sitting down?" my brother asked. Should I be? Derek's firm dissolved. Partnership voted him out 6 months ago, apparently. He's been trying to start his own practice but can't get clients. Word is he's applying for jobs at regional banks. I leaned back in my chair, looking out at Scottsdale spread below my office window. 2 years ago, that news would have made me feel something. Triumph, vindication, maybe just grim satisfaction. Now it barely registered. Okay, I said. Thanks for letting me know. That's it. Tom sounded surprised. No, I told you so? No victory lap? What would be the point? I asked. He made his choices. I made mine. We're living with the consequences. After we hung up, I thought about Derek for the first time in months. Wondered if he was happy, if he regretted anything, if the affair had been worth whatever he'd found with Sarah. Then I stopped wondering because it genuinely didn't matter anymore. My life had become something I'd built deliberately, piece by piece. The partnership was thriving. The veteran program had expanded to Phoenix, Tucson, and Flagstaff, with plans for Yuma next year. Kevin had been promoted to lead analyst and was exceeding every metric I'd set. My photography Instagram had 15,000 followers and generated occasional paid work I took just for the challenge. In November, Patricia invited me to speak at a veteran employment summit in Washington, D.C. 200 people in the audience, all focused on helping service members transition to civilian success. I talked about practical strategies, about seeing people for their skills instead of their resumes, about building programs that actually worked instead of just sounding good. Afterward, a woman approached me. Marine Corps colonel, active duty, intense in the way Marines always are. That was exactly what we needed to hear, she said. No bullshit, just results. Are you consulting with other organizations? Primarily in Arizona, I said. We need you nationally. She handed me a card. Call me. We should talk. That conversation led to a consulting contract with the Department of Defense Transition Assistance Program. More workshops, more veterans, more opportunities to do work that mattered. I cut my hours at the firm to part-time partner status and focused on the nonprofit side. Catherine approved it immediately. You've earned the flexibility, she said. And honestly, what you're doing is good for our reputation. Christmas came again. Tom and Jennifer's house, family dinner, their kids running around with the energy only children have during the holidays. My nephew Jack, who was 7, showed me a drawing he'd made of a soldier. Uncle Mike, you help soldiers, right? I help veterans find jobs after they stop being soldiers, I said. That's cool. He went back to his drawing, and I felt a particular kind of warmth that had nothing to do with the fireplace. Sarah's name came up exactly once when my mother asked if I was dating anyone. Not seriously, I said, which was true. There'd been coffee dates, a few dinners, nothing that stuck. I wasn't actively looking. For the first time in my adult life, I was content being alone, building something that didn't require another person to make it meaningful. She got remarried, my mother said carefully. Sarah, I saw it on Facebook, to Derek. Good for them, I said, and meant it in the most neutral way possible. You're not upset? Mom, I stopped being upset about Sarah 2 years ago. She's living her life. I'm living mine. They're not the same life, and that's fine. My mother hugged me, fierce and quick. I'm proud of you, she said, for who you've become after everything. After dinner, I drove back to my apartment through Christmas-lit Scottsdale. The lights were pretty this year. I noticed them in a way I hadn't in years. Appreciated them without the weight of performance, of trying to make someone else happy, of measuring myself against expectations I'd never set. I'd rebuilt from nothing. From that moment, standing in a hotel parking lot feeling like my world had ended to this. A career I loved, work that mattered, a life I'd designed around my own values instead of someone else's script. The exposure at the Christmas party hadn't been revenge. It had been honesty, refusing to carry someone else's secret, to protect people who'd destroyed my trust. The fallout had been on them, not me. I'd just stopped pretending. Sometimes at night I still thought about that version of myself who'd stood in front of 20 people and revealed everything. He'd been hurt, angry, calculating. But he'd also been brave in a way I hadn't recognized at the time. He'd chosen truth over comfort, chosen his own dignity over keeping peace. I'd become someone different now. Stronger maybe, or just more grounded. Less concerned with winning and more focused on building. The discipline to show up every day, to do work that mattered, to help people who needed it. That was the real victory. Not Derek's failed partnership or Sarah's questionable choices. My own life, lived well. I stood on my balcony, looking at Camelback Mountain under moonlight, drinking bourbon I'd bought to celebrate the partnership. Tomorrow I'd fly to San Diego for another workshop. Next month, meetings in DC about expanding the program. Next year, who knew? The betrayal had destroyed one life, but it had also created space to build another one. One that was mine, that reflected what I actually valued, that didn't require anyone's approval but my own. I raised my glass to the mountain, to the cold December night, to the long road from that parking lot to here. To rebuilding, I said aloud. The mountain didn't answer. It didn't need to. If this story hit home, smash that like button. What resonated most? Michael's strategic patience, his exposure method, or his focus on building something meaningful after betrayal? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more stories about men rebuilding after betrayal and discovering their true strength through discipline and purpose. You won't want to miss what's coming.